Shock. No, I couldn't do this anymore. That's it, Alex. We're done, I said loudly and shoved my loser boyfriend. Then, proudly raising my head, I turned around and left the cafe where we were planning to celebrate our anniversary. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see Alex angrily throwing flowers on the floor. You might think that I am just an unfeeling monster, but, well, who would have liked that kind of relationship? My now ex-boyfriend couldn't give me anything except vanilla nonsense. We hardly ever went to the movies, ate out only a few times in a year, and he never bought me anything. When I watched my friends' relationships, I recognized mine was terrible, and I wondered why. Because my partner was impoverished. And now I'm going home disappointed and upset because I bought him the video game he'd been wanting for a long time for our anniversary. And what did he do with it? He made a reservation at a cafe and ordered all the cheapest meals, as well as bringing me some really vile-looking daisies. I've had it. He was constantly telling me that he had no money, that his family was in a difficult situation, that everything would definitely change. Alex has been telling me about his financial situation for a whole year, but nothing has changed yet. Not only did he not give me gifts, but he also barely spent any time with me. You see, his family always had urgent business for him. Alex would constantly up and leave whenever they asked, and then disappear for several days. He didn't even call or write first. I didn't pay attention to it, but then it started to wear on me. Alex said that it was difficult for him to be caught between me and his family because his parents were in a tight spot. I put up with it for a while, but then we had a big fight and broke up for the first time. I expected him to apologize by bringing me gifts, like my friends' partners, but instead he simply wrote apologies, praises, and instant messages, added emoticons, and then practically swamped my inbox with love letters. I forgave him because it was pleasant, and now we've broken up for the second and final time because I'm sick of his poverty. I'm not particularly sad about it. After all, I'm one of the most popular ladies in school, and I'm sure I'll find a much better love soon. This time, though, I won't be looking at his inner traits. Instead, I'll be looking at his pocketbook. But who would have guessed that my ex would ascend to become the coolest person in school so quickly? If I had not seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed in this fairy tale. Do you know what happened? He became unbelievably rich overnight. There was a real commotion at school because a lot of people knew Alex as a quiet and sweet guy who didn't stand out at all. At one point, this is exactly what attracted me to him. And then he started wearing expensive clothes. He replaced his old smartphone with an exclusive version of the iPhone. And even his attitude suddenly changed dramatically. He became more confident in himself and even began to smile more often. The girls started hanging all over him and giving him all kinds of attention. I was burning with jealousy. It was so unfair. Why, as soon as we broke up, did he suddenly become so rich and popular? And how did he do it? I really wanted to find out, but I felt weird about going up to him and asking him anything. I did a very ugly thing to Alex when I broke up with him right in the cafe on our anniversary. But then an incident brought us together. When I was walking home after school, Craig, the school football team's captain, intervened. He's been after me for a while and has made it apparent that he wants to be my boyfriend. But I've never liked Craig, which I told him, and he didn't like that response at all. Not for the first time. He grabbed my hand and yanked me close to him, telling me that I would be his girlfriend, whether I wanted it or not, and that I should let go. You should let go of her. From behind us, we heard a voice. Alex was the one. He confidently strode up to Craig and punched him in the face. Without further ado, Craig was knocked to the ground, but he did not retaliate. Alex was practically off limits to guys like Craig now that he was so wealthy. Alex hugged me and asked if I was all right. At that moment, I was so confused that I couldn't even find the right words. I felt giddy around him more than I'd ever felt before. I was insanely embarrassed and said that I was fine. Alex smiled and made an unexpected offer. He invited me to the coolest restaurant in our city. So naturally, I didn't refuse. I had a wonderful evening with him. And then Alex ordered a limousine and we drove around the city for a long time. It was the most magical date of my life. I liked this kind of Alex better. He was generous, gallant, didn't skimp on gifts, and constantly took me out. Once Alex ordered a helicopter and we went to the top of a mountain where there was a dinner laid out on a table with musicians and a vase full of lush flowers already waiting for us. I couldn't believe my eyes. I even photographed this miracle and posted it on Instagram with a caption. My boyfriend is a millionaire. Jealous? At dinner. I asked how he got so rich so fast. Alex replied that his parents' business was finally taking off. They had tried to enter a larger market for many years, but they often failed and ended in debt. In the last year, even Alex had to come up with a business plan with his parents to earn money for food, and all that work paid off in full. I wasn't helping them for nothing, Alex said proudly, and I felt insanely ashamed for sulking over him working for his parents before. When we were on our way home, Alex suddenly asked me if I would have started dating him again if he hadn't become rich. Of course, I lied to him and said that I regretted breaking up with him. On the very first day, he was happy to hear this, and in my head, I was already imagining what luxury gifts he would shower me with, where we would celebrate my birthday, and where we would go for vacation in the summer. But my plans collapsed overnight. After a fantastic week with Alex, he revealed that his parents had been duped and that they would have to return all of the money or permanently close the firm to fix the problem. I wasn't thinking about my boyfriend's feelings at the time. Instead, I was thinking about myself and how much of a mess this would be for me. I could see how ashamed he was. But when he asked me to return the iPhone he had given me, he reddened even more. I'm sorry, but this will benefit my family. If you don't mind, I'd appreciate it if you could return it. Of course it bothers me. Why was it necessary for me to return the items he had given me? I gently explained to Alex that it was indecent for him to ask for this, that a real man would find a way out of the situation without asking, and then he started whining and complaining. He said that he was to blame for everything because he accidentally got his parents mixed up in a scam that he needs to somehow get out of, and that he needs help and support. I dismissed all of it. I hate whiners. I just replied that he should stop sniffling so much about it. I was actually ashamed of him. Yesterday, he was a self-confident millionaire, and now he was back to being an ordinary guy in silly clothes with an old smartphone and that same unbearable whining. Alex just nodded his head and left, and I exhaled in relief. Finally, some peace and quiet. But the thought of having to listen to Alex again at school the next day infuriated me. However, I was taken aback when he arrived at school in a Porsche and exited wearing a high-end suit. I couldn't figure out what was going on. He couldn't even afford a sandwich in the cafeteria the day before, and now he was driving such a pricey car. I wanted to approach him and ask him everything, but his guard shoved me away. I declared angrily, I'm truly his girlfriend. The guard simply stated flatly that Alex had ordered them to keep me away from him. What? How could he be so cruel to me? When I looked in his way, he grinned blissfully and went inside, carrying all of my feelings with him. I started thinking hard about what had happened. After a long time, it dawned on me how he had become so dramatically rich again. I realized that it was a trick. Of course, Alex was testing me. I lied and said that I would date him under any circumstance, and when he allegedly lost all of his money, I instantly lost interest in him. I was such a naive fool. How could I fall for such a trick? Well, okay. Since he was treating me so cruelly, he was an idiot, and I don't date jerks. But at the same time, it was really unpleasant to see Alex spend so much time with a mousy honor roll student. I just couldn't understand what he saw in her because she paled in comparison to me. So despite him, I also started dating someone. In front of everyone else, everything was perfect. We held hands and walked to and from school together, and he gave me chocolates. But he was such a narcissist that I quickly started to feel sick. He was fixated only on himself, his problems, and his appearance. And at some point, I began to miss the sensitive Alex, his touching letters, ridiculous daisies, and endless support. When I was sick, he always came to visit me and spend a lot of time at my house. And when I failed a test, he sat and studied with me a lot so I would be able to pass it the next time. But because of my materialism and demands, I didn't notice his kindness, and I felt so sad. I realized all my mistakes and stupid behavior. Why did it take me so long? Alex was now dating another girl who probably gave him what he wanted from me: attention, care, tenderness, and love. And I was left with nothing. But despite this, I still decided to apologize for everything. I wrote him a long letter, apologizing for my mistakes and strange behavior. I didn't even ask him to go out with me, as I understood that it wouldn't happen. I put the letter in his mailbox. I only hoped he just wouldn't rip it up. The next day he came up to me. I was so happy to see him that I smiled broadly. Alex sat down next to me and said that there could be nothing between us because it was still difficult for him to trust me. But if what you wrote is true, then in the future you will definitely meet a good guy, and I will be happy for you. I just nodded. I really didn't want to stop talking to Alex, and neither did he. Even after all the cruel things I said, after a little time, he was able to forgive me, and we began to talk again. But as friends, and we had a lot of fun together. Alex noticed how I had changed, and who knows? Maybe he will ask me out again. Would you date a poor guy? Write your answers in the comments, like the video, and share it with your friends.